Reality always surpasses fiction, and what we are about to see in this video corroborates this. Today we will delve into the history of the darkest and most disturbing clans that have ever existed, and we will see how a single person can influence the masses so much that they can lead them to commit unimaginable acts. Number 6. The Solar People Temple Movement, also known as Heaven's Gate, was an American sect that gained notoriety in 1997 due to a tragic event. Founded by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles in the 1970s, this sect believed in a combination of religious beliefs and ufology. Their core belief was that the earth would be recycled, and that its members could ascend to a higher level of existence through physical self-destruction, which they viewed as a transfer to an extraterrestrial spacecraft. On March 27, 1997, 39 members of the sect, including Marshall Applewhite, committed suicide by taking a lethal dose of the barbiturate known as phenobarbital, mixed with apple juice and vodka. The bodies were found in a mansion in the town of Rancho Santa Fe, north of San Diego, California. They all dressed in identical uniforms and carried out the collective suicide in the belief that their souls would be transported to a better life aboard a UFO that followed the Hale-Bopp comet. After his death, the media published a video in which all the bodies appeared arranged in bunk beds, covered with purple blankets and wearing new Nike sneakers. They all also carried luggage and money as rental rights for their bodies, which they viewed as a container for their UFO-type souls. Number 5. The Order of the Solar Temple was an occult sect founded in the 1980s by Luke Jurek and Joseph D. Mambro, which stood out for its mix of esoteric, religious, and apocalyptic elements. The goals of the order were to establish clear notions about authority and power in the world, reaffirm the superiority of the spiritual over the temporal, prepare humanity for a great transition, and prepare it for the return of Jesus Christ as the Solar King God, to unify all Christian churches and Islam. However, the most shocking thing about this sect were its macabre rituals. Between 1984 and 1994, the Order of the Solar Temple was involved in a series of murders and suicides in Europe, mainly in Switzerland and France. The sect's leaders believed that their followers must die to join them in a better life. Likewise, they lived with the belief that the Antichrist could be among their community, so many babies and children were executed by stabbing with wooden stakes, claiming that they were the Antichrist described in the New Testament. These acts of violence and collective suicide attracted the attention of the media and the authorities, leading to its two leaders committing suicide in a restaurant, performing the ritual of the Last Supper, which led to the dismantling of the sect. Number 4. The Manson family sect, led by Charles Manson, is infamous for its involvement in a series of murders that shook the United States in 1969. Manson recruited a group of young, vulnerable followers, whom he convinced that he was a messiah and that they were to carry out an apocalyptic race war, called Helter Skelter, which he believed was prophesied in Beatles songs. The group consisted of approximately 100 followers, who lived an unconventional lifestyle and frequently used psychoactive drugs. The majority were young, middle-class women, many of whom were attracted to hippie culture and communal life, although they were later radicalized into crime by Manson's teachings. The most shocking thing about the Manson family was their participation in the murder of actress Sharon Tate, and 6 other people in August 1969. Manson's followers, under their direction, carried out these murders in a brutal manner. These senseless acts shocked American society and led to the arrest and subsequent conviction of Manson and some members of his sect to several life sentences. Number 3. The Branch Davidian sect was a sect that had its heyday in the 1980s and early 1990s. Their spiritual leader, David Koresh, professed that they were all living in a time when biblical prophecies of a final judgment were happening, as a prelude to the second coming of Christ. Koresh and his followers firmly believed in apocalyptic prophecies, and claimed to be the legitimate branch of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. However, behind closed doors, Koresh and his entourage held orgies and abused innocent children, proclaiming that it was the will of God. These irregularities reached the ears of federal authorities, who, on February 28, 1993, attempted to execute a search warrant at the Mount Carmel Ranch in Waco, Texas, where Koresh and all his faithful followers were, which culminated in a 51-day siege in this place. On April 19, 1993, the siege came to a tragic end and the ranch was set on fire during an attempted forced entry by the FBI. As a result, more than 80 members of the sect were burned to death, including women, children, and 4 federal agents. The Waco siege became a highly controversial event, and generated debate over the government's response to radical and extremist religious sects. Number 2. The Supreme Truth, known as Aum Shinrikyo in Japan, was one of the most notorious sects in history due to its violent activities, and its involvement in the 1995 Tokyo subway sarin gas attack. Founded by Shoko Asahara in the 1980s, this sect had apocalyptic beliefs that mixed elements of Buddhism, Christianity, and conspiracy theories. On March 20, 1995, the Supreme Truth decided to carry out a liquid sarin gas attack on the Tokyo subway, killing 13 people and injuring thousands more. This act of terrorism was perpetrated by the cult's followers, who believed they must trigger the apocalypse and hasten the arrival of their spiritual utopia. After the attack, police carried out simultaneous raids on cult compounds throughout the country, finding explosives, chemical weapons, drug processing laboratories such as LSD, methamphetamines, and even a Russian Mi-17 military helicopter. The sarin gas attack led to the arrest and prosecution of the sect's leaders, including Shoko Asahara, who was sentenced to death and executed in 2004. The Supreme Truth exemplifies the danger of sects that resort to violence and terrorism, in the name of extremist and apocalyptic beliefs. Number 1. Founded by the Reverend Jim Jones, in 1955 in Indianapolis, United States, the People's Temple of the Disciples of Christ, or People's Temple, was an extremely dangerous sect. It was originally created to help homeless, unemployed, and sick people of all races without any type of discrimination, which led to the fact that, by the 60s, the People's Temple had a membership of approximately 5,000 people. In 1975, Jim Jones and almost 1,000 of his followers fled the United States, due to complaints from former members of the sect, who claimed that everything was a facade and the Reverend Jim Jones was a sexual depraved and a murderer, settling in the country of Guyana, in South America. On November 18, 1978, in what was called the Jonestown Massacre, Jones led more than 900 people, including infants and children, to their deaths in a mass suicide via cyanide-based drink. Jim Jones convinced his followers that the world was in danger, and that suicide was the only way to escape a worse fate. The community he created in Guyana was first considered a communist agricultural project, before becoming the site of the worst collective massacre ever seen. The People's Temple is a sad reminder of the dangers of cults, and the importance of vigilance against the abuse of power and psychological manipulation in these extremist groups. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, so we can bring you more of history's finest tops, from around the world.